Here we go.
Let's just pray that my dog doesn't bark.
And you know what? We already had an episode where the dog was barking and we had to stop, and that's okay. And she calmed down, and they'll edit that part out. So
okay.
All right. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the That's Where I'm At podcast. I'm Laura, and today I have my friend Samara here, and I'm excited for you guys to hear what Samara does and hear about her background. So Samara, tell us about yourself.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laura, for having me. I'm super honored to be featured on your show.
I'm so excited
I
you're
follow
here.
you. I follow you on social media, and I'm just so honored. So thank you again for having me. So a little bit about me. I'm a certified holistic health coach, but I kind of veered into working with alcohol recovery, and it kind of just happened because I struggled myself with alcohol dependence for over 25 years, basically all of my adult life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I became completely free from it using this neuroscientific method and God, because I believe that God led me to that method to become free. And now currently I lead people to freedom from alcohol dependence. So
that is amazing. You know what? I'm a woman of faith too. And so that's really important to me. I feel like, even when we don't have like a really strong relationship, we'll just go here for a second.
Yeah.
That I feel like we get little signals, we get little messages, and we just have to listen. And some people say it's the universe or whatever, but it's like, we're getting messages all day long. We have a gut feeling, an intuition, a word of knowledge drops in our head. It's like we have to listen, right? Because it can take us on quite a journey. So
absolutely. I believe, just to add on to that, I believe that our intuition is that God voice telling us, guiding us what to do. And lately I've been tuning into my intuition more, and it's actually practice makes perfect.
Yes.
The more you practice, the better you get at it. So yeah.
And that's the one thing that I've learned is the first voice you usually hear is what we call the Holy Spirit, right? And then the next voice you hear, I learned this and I thought it was so interesting because, you hear that voice that goes, well, wait, was that God? That's actually your voice. And then the third voice you hear is, was that really God? That's actually the enemy. And because that's what he said in Genesis. Was that what God said? So when I learned that, I was like, oh my gosh, we will talk ourselves out of everything. And it's like the first voice we heard was probably God. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is the intuitive kind of gut feeling.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. Exactly. Okay. So we've established that now. So everyone's clear. So tell me about your background that led you to the point to where you had alcohol use disorder for 25 years.
Oh, thank you for saying alcohol use disorder.
Of course.
Because that's the medical term, and we're trying to, it's less stigmatized.
From alcoholism?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I've heard. Yes, I've heard that on a few podcasts. And it's very interesting. And so I'm trying to use the right wording. And I know, things develop and change and whatever. So yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we're learning much more about addiction in the brain and how we can reverse addictions. Okay. So we have neuroplasticity in our brains, meaning we can change behaviors and thought patterns, and we can change the neural pathways. So they will change shape, and we can create new neural pathways.
Yes.
And so this is what we're applying to addiction science now. And this is how we, this really famous doctor, well, I guess he's not that famous because not a lot of people know about him yet.
Oh, okay. You're going to tell us today.
Yeah. He dedicated his life to applying this medication for alcoholism or alcohol use disorder. Right. And you can actually reverse the pathway. So you can, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic is no longer a thing anymore. Now you can go on the other side of AUD. You can come out on the other side. You can reverse the pathways in the brain that are addicted.
I was a speech therapist for 15 years, and that's one of the things that we learned was it used to be that once you had a brain injury, that was it. Like, this is it. This is the way you are. But we're learning so much about the brain that, and that neuroplasticity, that you were talking about. And that's why it's important that even our self-talk is important, because our pathways, our neurons are constantly firing and they lock into place. Every time you say something bad about yourself, they will lock into place. I'm very visual, and I always imagine little neurons, and they're talking to each other going, guys, we're terrible. We'll never change. And so everyone goes, okay, and locks arms. And it's like, you can actually, if they're doing that, imagine what would happen if you're talking positively to yourself. And then also all the other things. So one of the guys, Jim Quick, I don't know if I mentioned him to you before. Yeah. So he was had a traumatic brain injury when he was in first grade, and he has changed his brain since then. So I'll have to remember to put his link in the comments, because our brain can change in so many ways. So I'm excited for you to tell us more today.
Oh yeah, definitely. So let's just back up, and that's Buttercup.
I see. I'm so excited to see your doggy. Hi, baby.
Buttercup, be a good girl, lay down.
Good. That's okay.
No distractions.
She can be on camera.
Actually, it might bring people to the show.
That's right. We'll put that as our thumbnail. We'll put Buttercup in there.
With the dog. Yeah.
With the dog.
So, so let's back up a little bit to how it started. So, I started drinking around 17, 18, and I was just involved with the typical college age drinking culture, which was like a binge style drinking culture.
Right.
And I didn't know that would lead to AUD later, alcohol use disorder.
And do you have it in your family?
You know what? Not really. I have like one aunt on one side of my family that went into alcohol, that became dependent on alcohol. But other than that, like everybody, that's not a thing. So I don't think I was genetically predisposed to it, although that is a major factor for people developing it in their lives, that predisposition. So that's also been proven that people will turn, if they have it in their family, if they have a family history,
right,
it can happen, and they need to be aware about that, so that they can practice preventative measures now that we have them available. Right. So I remember exactly when it was like the year before I turned 30, I kind of had a wake up call and realized that I had an issue with alcohol. And one of the things that I discovered was that I didn't have an off switch. Like when I started drinking, it was a free for all. I never knew how much I would drink, or if I would drink everyone under the table, or if I would do something dangerous and drive like that, or wake up or black out, or wake up and not remember anything from the night before and have to piece together what happened. And, that's such a horrible feeling. Like, you're like, you have anxiety, you have shame, you feel guilty, you don't know what you did or said. And this was happening like regularly.
And did anyone around you say anything to you, or were they just participating as well? And so it wasn't like, Samara, do you know what you did last night kind of thing?
They were kind of in the same, like we were all in this like kind of drinking culture or party culture, but I did have one friend that dragged me to an AA meeting because she was sober through AA. And that was my first introduction to AA. And I found it very depressing at first, but then I was told that was the only way, if we want to address our drinking problem, you go to AA and you do the 12 steps, right? So that's what I did. I started going to meetings. I got a sponsor. I started working the steps. I started working the program, and everyone said, "Oh, you're going to get better now." And what happened to me is that I went into the next 15 years of my life I would become a chronic relapser for 15.
Yeah.
And constantly trying to get sober, getting sober for a little while, and then miserably failing and relapsing.
Mhm.
And this was a toxic cycle for 15 years. And by the end of that period, I was my self-esteem was down the toilet. I mean, just think about it, failure after failure after
Right.
failure. And then I'm being told that I'm not, that there's something wrong with me because I can't stay sober.
Wow.
I'm being told that there's something morally wrong with my
Mhm.
character, because I can't stay sober. And why can't you just quit? Why can't you just stop?
Right.
So
And that's pretty common, I think, with people who don't understand. I know
that's
I've been
that's the mainstream way of thinking about addiction.
right. And I know that I've been there before I had family members or, even kids in addiction. It's like I didn't realize I've learned so much, I didn't realize that. And we do have a predisposition, and my kids have it on both sides of the family. I think I only have it on one side, but my kids have it on both. And so they're very well aware. And they even say stuff like that. It's like, do you want to order a beer or something? And they're like, no, I don't even want to try right now, to even because I think they feel the same way. So when
That's
you were,
good. So if they
yeah,
know that they're predisposed to it and they're practicing preventative measures, if you don't drink so much, you won't get it in
yes.
the AUD cycle in the brain, right?
Okay. Because
Yeah.
is that what happens when it's like, are you having to binge drink, or is it just a little bit every day that can still cause that or awaken that part? That is, uh-oh, are you frozen?
Percent.
Oh, you were frozen. So start,
Oh,
do it again.
I said, it's basically any amount depending on the individual person.
Okay. So you never know. So we
You
just
never
don't,
know.
right? You
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, someone could develop full-blown AUD with just a small amount of alcohol in their life, or someone would have to binge for a few years. So in
Okay.
my case, I binged for about 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
then I noticed that I was developing a dependence. And what happens, and this is how you kind of know that you have AUD, if you feel like you've been hijacked by the substance, like if you kind of wake up in the morning and you're thinking about drinking, and when are you going to have a drink, and
Mm-hmm.
what are you going to drink today, and how are you going to make the drink, and like if your brain is kind of like wired up to drinking every single day, or
Yeah.
not, maybe not daily, but throughout the week you're thinking about it often,
Yeah.
that's a really good sign that you have AUD in the brain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would think that you might be thinking about it when you're trying not to drink. I would think that because I've been there, even just as a casual drinker, going, I don't think I'm going to drink. And then thinking about, well, I'm going to go out with that person. They're going to want to drink. And so do you feel like that is I mean, that is a thing to work on, I would think, or that's something that's always in the front of your mind?
Yeah, if it's always in the front of your mind, that is a very good telltale sign that you could have either the beginning of AUD, or it does kind of, there's varying degrees of AUD in the
Uh-huh.
brain. Like you could have full blown AUD where you are in the morning when you wake up, you are craving a drink, and you just, in order to get through the day, you have to have a shot,
Hmm.
So that's probably a really a really intense
Yeah.
AUD developed in the brain, right? So, or you could start to have those neural pathways going that way where they're
Okay.
wired to alcohol. So a great way to describe it is that you're just kind of thinking about alcohol a lot
Okay.
more than maybe you think is normal, you
Right.
know?
And I
So.
would guess at this point, if you're constantly relapsing, how are you feeling? Do you feel like you're communicating with anyone to say like, "Oh no, I made a mistake. I relapsed again," or anything? Is there anyone supporting you, or are you just in? I would think there'd be a lot of shame to not even be able to talk about that.
Right. It's shrouded in shame. So the whole behavior of relapse is shameful
Right.
in itself. And then if you do have the benefit of having a sponsor in AA or a 12-step program, a lot of times they are shaming you for relapsing. So it's all guilt tripping and shaming, and there's no room for growth and healing and empowering positivity to ultimately change the behavior, right? It's just all negative shame and guilt, and people are stuck in this cycle. And this is one of the reasons that I'm out there right now doing this podcast with you, is there are people out there suffering with this in these types of programs, these traditional methods of recovery, and they're not getting anywhere. They're just in these cycles of relapse. And what it does to you, like at your core, like every time I would relapse, it was very, very hard on my mental and physical health. Like psychologically, it was very hard on me because you feel like a failure. You become very depressed. You know, like your self-esteem, your self-worth gets thrown out, you know? So, and then you're told that you have to start all the way at the beginning again. And, you know, that you can't, it's very black and white. So the thing that I teach is that it's called harm reduction. And you're basically, you're weaning off of alcohol slowly and in a healthy way, so that you can eventually become free from it, and you can basically untangle your whole relationship with alcohol, because that is another part of of this whole thing, which is that we have this like really, you know, intricate relationship with alcohol that we've developed over the years.
It's part of our culture. It's just part of our culture.
Right. And that can be untangled once we have the mental space to be able to untangle it. But if we're dealing with cravings regularly, and we're dealing with having to fight back urges to drink because we're white knuckling it through sobriety, there's no room to address the relationship with alcohol, because you're just trying to make it one day at a time. Trying not to drink. You're just trying to avoid temptation and try not to drive by the liquor store and, you know, don't look, you know.
Exactly. And I'm sure, you know, there's that whole thing too, and that's all part of the shame of not wanting to disappoint, say, your parents or something like that, you know, and you know, that's hard, especially when, you know, there's only so many times, I guess, I don't know what I've been taught, but you know, when you fall down and you get back up again. But in addiction, I think we're often told, you know, don't keep taking them back, or don't keep helping them if they keep, you know, relapsing, that kind of thing. And that's really hard. So what happened in that 15, what was it, 15 years, did you say? In that 15 years, what did that look like for you? And what finally got you to where you are now in this different, that you found this different method?
Yeah. Total freedom from alcohol and complete freedom from cravings, urges to drink.
That's amazing.
Gone out of my brain. Like no thoughts. I don't have thoughts of alcohol anymore. It's crazy because my brain used to be like constantly thinking, how can I drink? How can I get a drink? Where can we go where I can have a drink? You know, it's just like,
And how did you come across, this?
So in 2019, my mom actually found this video online, you know, like on YouTube. It was a TED Talk about this woman who cured herself from, it's called How I Cured Myself from Alcoholism. I believe that's the name. And her name is Claudia Christian. And so it's a viral video. It's actually been viewed around, I think, 4 million times. So it's, you know,
and we'll put a link to it in the show notes so everybody can watch it. I watched it.
Oh, good. Yeah. What did you think?
I thought it was really interesting. I was just, and she's a, you know, she's a very good speaker. Of course, it's a TED Talk, so it's not that long. But it really gives you such a good, you know, such good information. So it'll be good for people to watch it and just see a different way. Because if one way isn't working, the traditional way, which I think you and I kind of talked about, how it's really not meant to be super successful, because it just keeps people being repeat customers in rehab, or in recovery. And unfortunately, I do see that, because we can't shame anyone out of anything.
Right.
We can't shame them to do we can't shame anybody to do anything in
Yeah.
this
How
world.
how is that conducive to changing a behavior, a well-established pattern of behavior by negative shaming, right?
Right.
And for as far as the 12-step programs, I believe their heart is in the right place.
Yes.
But the statistics are
Right.
showing that they're failing the majority of people that they
Um,
are trying to help.
right.
So it's like 80% of people will relapse within 6 months after rehab. And the number jumps up to closer to 90% after that 6 months. So
Uh-huh.
it's a very grim
It,
statistic.
it is.
And it's high time
Hmm.
for us to develop something that's more effective. Right. And now it's here.
Here it
So,
is.
right here it is.
And
So when
I would think that we could probably we don't have to get into this whole thing, but I always go towards, well, there's a reason why this isn't as well known, because it is a moneymaker, I think, for rehab and recovery and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I
I mean, we
guess,
have a big giant industry that we are up against, the recovery industry. I think it's a
yeah,
$60 billion industry,
yeah,
a year industry. And, we are a grassroots movement. We're just individuals who have gotten healed in this manner.
right,
And now we're just spreading the word from one person to the next and doing
right,
podcasts. And
right.
we're just, it's a group of us, a small group. And there's an industry, right? That
Mhm.
that kind of I, it's not in their best interest to
Right.
promote this because here you can discreetly attack your drinking problem from the comfort of your own home in
Hmm.
just a few months, okay, without needing to tell too many people, without needing to leave your work and
Right.
go into a 30 to 60 to 90-day
Right.
facility.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any of that, right? So this is, and it's pretty much a very affordable monthly prescription, which is
Amazing.
about $16 a month.
That's crazy. So
So it's
I want to hear about what happened. Was your mom looking for something on YouTube? Was she
My
looking
mom
for
was
something?
looking for a solution for me. She saw me struggling all those
Okay.
years, and she was of the same mindset that the mainstream mindset, which is, why don't you just stop? Why can't you
Right.
just quit? Why
Right.
can't you just, you know what I mean? And it's not when we have AUD established in the brain,
Hmm.
it's almost not, we can't just quit. Like it's it's not that easy. It's
Right.
willpower is out the window. It's not something that we can necessarily control until we take some measures like this. So
Right.
she found this video and I was like, there's a medication. Hello, sign me
Right.
up. Like there, it takes away cravings. Hello,
Right.
I was like, I can't believe this. How did I not know about this? This could be my answer,
Right. So
and
what
so
did you have to do from there? Or what
so I
did you do from there?
yeah, so I found a psychiatrist who would prescribe me the medication. He did not know much about it. I had to kind of give him information. I had to show, oh, by the way, there's a whole many research studies done on this specific medication and how it is used for alcohol use disorder. There's double blind placebo studies. Like this stuff is
Mhm.
heavily researched and heavily sourced.
Uh-huh.
And I can provide all the links and the
Okay, great. Yeah, that would be really helpful for people who want to know more before they even, look into it or
right, the
whatever. Yeah.
science
Yep.
behind it. And yeah, and so this was, it boggled my mind that it wasn't, that I didn't know about this already,
Hmm.
that how is it in the background? So anyways, I got the medication and I started it and I did it on my own for 5 months. And
Okay.
so I'll tell you what happened. So
Okay.
I call it a failed attempt. It was my first attempt at doing this treatment. And I called it a failed attempt. And the reason why, and I'll give you the three reasons.
Okay.
So number one, I didn't have a community of people helping. I wasn't involved in a program or a community.
Yeah.
I was just experimenting with this drug by myself on my own, right?
Mhm.
Number two, I didn't understand enough about what I was doing. Like I was so new and naive. I just didn't really know what I was doing. Now, initially, I saw amazing results, like amazing. Like my consumption was down by 70%. It was
Wow.
almost miraculous type of results. But I started, so it's a medication that you take, and
Mhm.
it is done, the treatment is done while you're still drinking. So you don't have to white knuckle it and try to,
Oh,
try to
okay.
stay away from cravings, right? You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that anymore. You can take a medication and you wait an hour, and then you have the first drink of your day, and it works on your brain while you're drinking. Okay. And it
Wow.
slowly reduces
Mhm.
and heals the brain.
So it must be doing something to say to your brain, this is not something we're going to be addicted to, or what is it doing? Is it doing something like that? Has some sort of chemical reaction that way?
Yeah, well, what it does, so it's an opiate antagonist. So what that is
Oh,
that
okay.
it's a medication that sits on the receptors of your reward center of your brain. So when people with AUD drink, we get a very huge endorphin reward from.
Mhm.
We've trained ourselves to get this
Yes.
very big reward from our
Mhm.
drinking. And now you're not getting that reward necessarily, right?
Right.
You're not getting the reward when you drink. So that what that does over time is that closes up those neural pathways that are associated to drinking and alcohol. They close up, they shrink, they get smaller.
Oh.
Essentially, they revert back to their pre-addicted state over time. It takes a few months. It's not a quick fix or instant
Mhm.
kind of thing, but if you give it the time that it needs and you stay committed to taking that medication. So that's the important part.
Right.
Complete 100% compliance to taking that medication before you're going to drink,
Okay.
right? An hour before you're going to drink. And if you do that over time, you will heal the brain. It's like
And do
the
you have to keep taking the medication or is there a way to know that your brain has, reverted back to the normal
yeah.
state?
So the beauty of this method is that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's a
Oh,
completion
that's
to the
great.
process. Yeah, and anywhere between the 5 month mark, typically, I mean, it depends on
Uh-huh.
people, right? But between 5 months to a year, somewhere in that time span, you can hit this thing called extinction. It's called
Wow.
extinction, and it's where you've extinguished the addiction. It's no longer there. It's no longer present in the brain. And that's what happened to me. I hit extinction. So the second time around when I tried it again,
Okay.
I hit extinction, and then you're free. You're free from.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What did you do differently the second time? What did you find worked better for you the second time?
Oh, so there's a book. Okay, so I'll show you the book because I've
Okay.
read it 3 times now. So it's a well-worn book.
Yes.
The Cure for Alcoholism by Dr. Roy Escapa. So this is the scientific data explaining this method. And I really dived in the second time and read this. And I mean, I took notes, and
Yes.
like it's seriously been
Yeah.
studied. And that was a missing factor the first time around at just understanding what I was
Mhm.
doing. Then I did get more support with other people that were also doing this method. So there's Facebook groups out there that
Oh, okay.
are related to this, and people go on there. There's a really big one called the Sinclair Method Warriors. It's
Hmm.
a private Facebook group, and there's 6,000 people on there. And
Wow.
I got that. And then the last thing was I had to learn about 100% compliance with the medication. So that's a
Okay.
really important part of it. And I didn't have that down the first time around. And
Mhm.
so I was very innocent. I just didn't know,
Right.
it was, I didn't know what I was doing. And
So
I
what does
didn't
the
know.
100% compliance mean? That you're taking it every day, or that you're taking it and drinking every day, or what is the compliance?
Okay, that's a great question. I'm glad you broke it down because sometimes I'm used to talking about this, and so
Right.
maybe go over people's head. But yeah, so it's all it is that you take it only when you're gonna drink, an hour before your first drink of
Okay.
the day, if you're gonna drink. But you cannot drink without it. Like
Oh, okay.
absolutely not. It's
Oh,
like it does, damn it. It actually, what it does scientifically is
mm-hmm.
that it causes an intermittent reward in the brain,
Right.
the alcohol, and that can cause you to develop AUD even more, right? So
Oh,
you
okay.
don't want to mess with it. But the first time around, I didn't know any of that. And so I
Right.
was unknown.
Oh,
So,
okay. Hold on one second. You froze just at that last part.
oh, I'm
So it's
sorry.
okay. Just the very last part. So, okay, you were saying that you were okay, shoot. Because that
Yeah,
last
just that 100% compliance with, and then just to answer your question,
yeah.
yeah, you don't, so the medication is used, I like to describe it like this. It's a temporary way of attacking this drinking problem that you
Okay.
have, right? It's temporary because you're going to use this medicine temporarily for,
Mhm.
you're going to use it regularly whenever you drink. If you're a daily drinker, you're going to use it every day. And, we have a whole protocol how to,
Oh,
how
okay.
that we teach. And then if you're a binge style drinker, you could just use it when you are drinking, right? And then when you're not drinking, you don't take it.
Oh,
You don't,
okay. I was curious about that. So you don't have to take it every day
nope.
and drink every. Okay. You don't
Yeah,
have
so
to
I'm
drink
not
every
on
day.
it anymore because I'm alcohol free and I don't need to
Right.
take the medication, but I have it just in case. I'm always going to keep some around,
Uh-huh.
just just in case if I choose to drink again, which
Right.
it's not off the table. It's not like I have to be sober,
Right.
because I cured that problem, right? But
Right.
if I choose to drink again, like let's say I'm in Italy and I want to have a glass of wine with dinner, in order for me not to relearn the addiction in the brain, I'm
Okay.
going to protect my brain from the reward from that alcohol.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody comes over and wants to have a glass of wine or whatever, you're going to take it so that,
Mhm.
yes, you're not stimulating the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You
Oh
got it.
gosh. Yes, that would be, yes. I mean, that's amazing. And it's hard because, well, what is the success rate with this? Do you have a number for that?
Yes, I do. So the clinical success rate is 78% success. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now it jumps up to 90% if a person is completely 100% compliant with the medication and they give it enough time. So
Right.
a lot of people quit too soon because they think it's not working fast enough or they
Okay.
don't know enough about what they're doing and they
Yes.
just give up like I did the first time,
Right.
right? I
Right.
did that. And then I did it the right way the second time. So yeah, so that's what it jumps to 90% success
That
rate for
is
people.
amazing. So
Yes,
are fine other than Facebook groups, what kind of places are there for support if somebody would, because it sounds like you can go to a psychiatrist to get the medicine, but then and if they don't know enough, and I'm thinking they would need to be educated like everything, right? We all need to, that's the key for so many things is just the education. So if they're not educated and they're just giving you this medicine, it may not work for that person. So if they are educated, what are they going to recommend with it? Like what kind of support groups or whatever? Can you go to a traditional 12 step or anything like that or?
no, not necessarily, because
Okay.
the way that this works is so
Yeah.
opposite of a dynamic from the 12-step traditional recovery methods,
Right.
where it's abstinence based only.
Right.
This is not that. This is not
Right.
abstinence based. This is you actually have to drink to get better. I mean, you have
Right.
to take this medication and drink, but it's not
Right.
going to work if you don't drink.
Right.
So it's a total paradigm shift
Mm-hmm.
in the recovery world,
Yeah.
to now think this way about it. And we've had to work with so many people with guilt and shame about drinking because now you actually have to have a glass of wine
Right.
you know, because you got to take your medicine and then you got to drink, right? And so,
Right. And does it change with the amount? Now I'm thinking of all these questions. Now,
yeah.
does the amount of the medicine change with the amount you're going to drink or the amount you do drink if you're like binging or you know what I mean? Like if you're at that point where you don't feel like you can just do one glass of wine or whatever, one drink.
Yeah, yeah. So we have everyone start where they're at. So
Okay.
wherever they're at, if they're drinking a liter of vodka a day, then
Yeah.
you know they start where they're at.
Okay.
And it's a therapeutic dose of 50 milligrams, and that's what closes the receptors in the brain. So
Okay.
you don't need to not not mostly you don't need to like raise the dose. Only in very specific cases of malabsorption issues where a person has had like a type of surgery, like weight
Oh,
loss
okay.
surgery or
Oh,
something where they're
okay.
having malabsorption, then the doctor would increase the dose. But other than that, it's a pretty standalone, you know,
Right.
therapeutic dose. Yeah. Yeah.
So you still have to drink on it, and I would think that that's pretty controversial.
Very controversial. It's
And
very
I would
controversial.
think that that's maybe why there people are saying, well, that means it doesn't work, or that's an excuse for you to drink, or whatever, right?
Yes.
Even though
That
you have a 90% success rate with people using it. So talk
yeah.
about that because the other thing I want to know, even from your point of view, is like, why do you think that? I mean, I get it, but why do you think that that would be an issue as well?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to mention that I work with Thrive Alcohol Recovery, and
Okay.
we're a support group
Mm.
program that
Mhm.
teaches you how to do this from A to Z, from the beginning of your TSM journey. We call it TSM, the Sinclair
Okay.
Method journey, to the end where you hit extinction. So we provide resources and coaching and help and articles and everything you need to, you know, get the results that you want on
That's
this
awesome.
method.
And
So
can
that's
anyone do that, or is that a local program to where you are?
no, it's anywhere around the world. It's an online platform.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
definitely put a link for that so that people can have support when they're doing this. That's amazing.
Yeah. 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 It's full support. So, and there's also other, you know, teachings. Like there's all kinds of YouTube videos about it. And there's a documentary called One Little Pill. You can look it up,
Really?
you can Google it. Yeah. And
Okay.
it's a documentary about this medication. But you had asked a question. Oh,
Just about the drinking, I would think that that's a hard thing to come, for people to accept. Not necessarily the person who's going to do the Sinclair method, but
the family.
the community and the family, and even maybe getting doctors on board going, really, you still have to drink, you know what I mean? So I don't know. So talk about that a little bit and what you found, what you guys have found.
Yeah, for sure. So it is a problem with doctors. Well, most doctors are just, they don't know about it. They don't
Oh,
know
okay.
about
Right.
this method.
Right.
And so that's what we're running into. There are a few experts out there, some doctors that are experts, and we work with them. And they get patients and they do the method with them. But other doctors, when they first hear about this, if they don't quite understand it, they think it's a liability to tell a person with AUD to keep drinking, right?
Yeah.
They, you
Yeah.
know, and so I have heard of a case where a doctor told my client, well, so what's happening in out there in the world right now is that doctors are prescribing this medicine. It's called naltrexone. They're
Okay.
prescribing it with abstinence. Okay, so they're giving
Oh,
it to their patients, but they're telling them they cannot drink on it. And so, unfortunately, that is the most ineffective way of taking this medication.
okay.
It
Okay.
doesn't really do anything in doesn't change the brain. It doesn't
Okay.
heal the pathways. It doesn't move the needle, right?
So that's
So
still more education than I would think because does it say it on the pill container? Take with one alcoholic drink.
no, it doesn't, except in Europe, or was it Canada? One of my clients showed me her pill bottle, which I was so delighted to see. I think it was Canada.
Okay.
She showed me that it said the doctor prescribed it one a day per 1 hour before your first drink of the day.
That is amazing.
Okay, so that it's fine. Like you see like little glimmers of hope when you see
Yes.
that kind of a thing happening.
Right.
But just so you know, in general, when it is prescribed at like a rehab facility or any kind of recovery center, or it's prescribed on the label once a day in the morning with abstinence, with no alcohol.
Wow.
So
And that's such a bummer because then that's the information they don't have because it's not going to change the brain, which is
right.
such a
Yeah.
bummer. So then it's a waste of time if people think, well, this might help, that kind of thing. So, oh my goodness. So,
Well, it's a lot we're up against because of the misconceptions around this medication and how
right,
it actually works and how it works in the most effective way.
right.
And yeah, so and as far as the family that you mentioned, like our
Yeah,
family, that's a big issue that we deal with is like our loved ones are like, well, you're just having an excuse to drink.
right,
And
right.
so what helps with them is first maybe not telling them what you're doing right away,
Mhm.
just whoever you can trust, and
Yes.
you can trust with the information, tell them, and then after you've had a level of healing and you're seeing a lot of the fruit in your life of the changed behavior and the
Yeah,
reduced desire for drinking and the reduced cravings and all the good stuff that are going to come with it,
right,
then maybe you can reach out, to these people, to these individuals, these loved ones, and share a little bit more information about what you're doing. Like you can share the research studies, you can share there's videos
yeah,
online, there's,
yeah,
information, there's teaching. And if they're open-minded enough, they will listen. They will listen and they will it's actually kind of logical when you think about what's
right,
happening in the brain.
right.
You're
But
blocking the reward from alcohol.
right.
Right?
But not everybody's going to understand that, especially if you like say like you did, you were on a 25-year journey, and all that kind of thing. I understand and I can think of it from a parent's point of view. It might seem like, oh my gosh, this might finally work. And until you start seeing the fruit. And the thing is, when you were saying that, is that when you start seeing the fruit, but I'm thinking, I bet other people would see it too and say, are you doing something? Are you doing something different?
They do. They see it. They start to see the changes in your life.
Right. I would
They
think that that would be happening just naturally because you do, when you're around your child or a loved one, you might see changes. They might look healthier and things like that. Maybe they're actually going to work every day like they're
yeah,
supposed
yeah.
to,
Like
not
they're not hungover as much. Yeah.
not hungover, things like that. So, do you have any kind of resources then for families at all, or any kind of groups with at the center? I don't remember what it's called. I'm very sorry. I missed that part. Is it a center?
Yeah, it's an online platform called Thrive Alcohol Recovery.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and we have a lot of resources for the loved ones. We have a
Okay,
whole
good.
section devoted to just download after download after download of things that can help our loved ones understand once they're
Okay.
ready to understand. Because some
Yes.
people are a little blocked at first. And
Yes.
then the other thing is, as far as my own coaching, because I have a private coaching practice with
Uh-huh.
this, I also provide resources. And there's websites, there's this website called the C3foundation.org. They're
Okay.
a nonprofit organization, and they're just dedicated to spreading the word about this and the method and the
Wow.
life-saving treatment and all the resources to
Hmm.
help people understand it. So,
So we'll have to keep getting the word out, that's for sure.
yeah.
So then how did you get involved in doing coaching? How did you go from just trying to get healing to actually doing coaching?
Oh my gosh, that year that I got healed was the most transformative year. I've never experienced anything like that in my life.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I transformed in every way you can think of, all
Hmm.
for the better. Like I became a better version of myself,
Hmm.
body, mind, and spirit.
Right.
It was amazing. And all of that was done without completely eliminating alcohol.
Hmm.
All I did was become a moderate drinker, that like someone who drinks at moderate, safe levels, like one or two glasses of wine in a sitting, and then they're done.
Right.
Right. Like someone like a normal drinker, right?
Right.
I became that normal drinker.
Right.
That person that I always was like, how can they do that? Like, how
How
can
do
they
they do that?
how do
Yes.
they leave half of their glass of wine on the table? Like I would never do that.
Right.
In 25 years, I never left any alcohol left over on the table,
Yeah.
And so here I was doing that now. I was the one leaving, a beer on the table or, just I was full. I was like, yeah, I'm full.
And you were done. And oh my gosh, you're done and then you walk away. That's crazy.
And then you wake up next day and no hangover and you're feeling great and you feel clear-headed and bright and bushy-tailed. And it
That's what
was,
I was wondering is if you would have, I would guess with your brain changing like that, you would be so much more clear-headed.
yes, the mental clarity and energy that I got was, I mean, if you're, I was stuck in that for 25 years. So
Right.
coming out of it and just, this whole new person. And I lost 50 pounds that year.
Oh my gosh, just from not drinking?
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I would say the first 20 pounds was just from not drinking as much. I still
wow.
drank a little, right?
Right,
But
right, right.
not as much. But then after that, it was because, oh, I could make it to the gym in the morning because I wasn't hungover.
Oh,
Oh,
jeez.
I could eat healthy more continuously because I wasn't
Yes.
hungover. And you know what we do when we're hungover? We will eat all the bad foods because we're not feeling good. And
Yes.
so I was more consistent with my lifestyle habits.
That's
So.
amazing. And so then how did you end up, when you said it was a transformative year, how did you end up doing
Oh,
coaching?
yeah. So I was in this other type of work, promotional marketing for the last 14 years, and it's nothing related to coaching. And I felt really strongly in my spirit that I was supposed to work in this field, I was supposed to serve the person I once was. I just
That's
had this
amazing.
deep, I know, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's so gives so much purpose to say it that way. But I had this deep desire in my soul to help others that were a few, that I had been there, right?
Mhm.
And so just things happened in a way, it's so like very God
Yeah.
like, but things happened in a way to get me this interview. And then I got certified in the method through that woman whose TED Talk, Claudia Christian,
That's
who has the
amazing.
famous TED Talk, and then all of a sudden I'm communicating back and forth with her, and
My
she
gosh.
offered me a job as a coach on her platform, and then one thing led to another, and then I did do a success story video. It's out there now. It's a testimony
Okay.
video of my recovery story, basically.
Mhm.
And so I did that success story video and it went out on YouTube. And that kind of got me in front of these people. And that's what happened. And now I'm a full-time coach, and people find me on those two platforms, and then
Mhm.
I coach them. I coach them through the method. I teach the protocol. I teach all the behavior change aspects, like, I teach habit change and finding new coping skills and mindset and
Yes.
mindful, all this stuff, mindfulness. And so it's a whole thing.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is, what a great story. Oh my gosh. That is wonderful. So we're going to put information in the show notes, because if people want to reach out to you and get more information on this, because it just really feels like it could be something that could really help, people who have tried other things, and it hasn't worked for them, or maybe, I mean, I think it's harder with loved ones to say, like, you should do this, but sometimes they're ready to listen. You never know.
Well, my
Um,
my mom
yeah.
introduced it to me,
Yes, exactly.
so
Yep.
it
You
is
never.
possible.
Yes. Okay. So we will pray and we'll keep our fingers crossed and all the things.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing.
Yes.
So
Go ahead.
just, this is, I have a quote that I say, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember it quite exactly, but this is an every family problem. So almost everyone knows either a family member, a loved one, a close friend or a friend who is struggling with alcohol. Almost everybody that I talk to has somebody in their life. So this is an every family problem. And it's getting worse. So the numbers of people with alcohol use disorder after COVID is 28 million that were reported in a year. So 28 million were reported, I think it was 2021 when they did the last report. And the number before COVID was 94 million people with AUD, adults with AUD in the country. And now it's 28 million. So I'll let you figure out what the difference in the number.
Yeah. That's
So
just, it's crazy. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
wait,
I
did I say
mean,
that right? Hold on.
okay.
I said 94 million. What I meant to say was 14 million people reported with alcohol use disorder pre-COVID, and
Okay.
28 million people reported with alcohol use disorder.
Oh my gosh.
That's what
Well,
I
and the thing was during COVID, we were all glamorizing sitting around drinking, you know. Um, and so that was very normalized, right?
yeah.
So that did not help anything. But then to actually leave your home and go have a normal life, it was not conducive to that. I
Yeah.
know been a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress, and that's how some people cope because it's socially accepted. But it's not always good for us when there's so many different things that we have to think about. So,
Yeah, it is an easy go-to coping
yes,
mechanism, but it ultimately is, destructive for ourselves.
right.
It's not the
No.
healthy way.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to share with us before we said goodbye today? Because that was so good. My gosh, such a great story.
I think I shared everything, but I just want to thank you again for
You're
having an open
welcome.
mind to even learning about this. Cause by the way, I've run into closed-minded people about,
No
they don't
way.
hear about, yeah, they don't want to hear about it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That's it.
abstinence-based thinking. Nope, there's no other way to do it. It's all or nothing. You've got to go you got to go cold turkey. That's the only way to get better, and so what I want to say to that is that
Mhm.
there's other options out there.
Right,
And now we have all of this research showing that this is real. This is
right.
scientifically sound. And we have multiple success stories, people getting healed every day
Mhm.
this way, the way I got healed. And so, yeah, it could be a viable option for your
Right.
family member or, you know,
I want people to think about it this way. The people who are, and they may not be listening, but the people who are like, nope, you have to just quit cold turkey. Okay. How many of you are addicted to sugar right now? And you know how you know you're addicted to sugar? Because if I told you you cannot have any more sugar starting right now, a lot of you would go, no. So imagine telling that's exactly what I think about because I know I've been addicted to sugar. I'm not right this second, but I know, right? And that is a very common one. So many people sit around going, I'm so addicted to sugar. Okay,
and it's
imagine,
almost impossible to stop when you're addicted to sugar. Like it's
right?
so,
And you're constantly thinking about it. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, I'm going to that birthday party. So look, this is a way to think about it about your loved one who is dealing with
yes,
alcohol
I
and you're
love
telling
it.
them, that's it. You have to stop right this second. And they're going like, how am I going to do that? And how am I going to sneak it? Cuz maybe I can sneak a cupcake over here and
Yes,
maybe I can,
yes,
right?
exactly the same thing. You're thinking about alcohol in that way
Yeah.
constantly. And how can I drink? How can I get a drink?
Well, it's nice that there's another option. This sounds like a really viable option for people, and I'm excited to learn more about it and share with a couple of people that I think would benefit from it because I want the best for people. I'm not going to do it because hey, you're a terrible person. Nope, we want the best for people, right? Right?
Yeah, no, it also eliminates the shame because if we
Yes.
now know that this is a problem in the brain that,
Yes.
not a moral failing. It's not
Right.
something wrong with
It's not
us.
just willpower. It's not just the
Yeah.
willpower thing. Right.
Yeah. It's
And
not a logical thing. Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
thing we have to understand. And just being a speech therapist and having to study the brain, I've learned so much. And understanding just every little thing, that we do affects our brain, and even the way we talk, the way we think. There's a reason we've gotten there a certain way. So that's great that this can really help our brain. And who doesn't want a better brain? Look, the older we get, the more
Yeah.
I would, and there's so many people going around saying, I wish I had more mental clarity with certain things, and there, I know that there's things that we do in this world that would help with that. So thank you so much for sharing this, sharing your journey, being open with us, and just telling us all your business. Thank you for that.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I
Well,
so
I hope
appreciate it.
this goes out far and wide so people can hear it. And then, of course, all the information is going to be in the show notes. So, all the information, all the stuff we talked about today, if we need to go back and grab all the links of everything we talked about, we will, because there's so much good information. We'll definitely put that YouTube video in there and whatever. So that way you can hear. And then it sounds like, just get in touch with Samara, because this having the support in so many things, but in this particular thing, having the support sounds like it's really going to help. So thank you
Yeah,
so much for being here. I
the
appreciate
support is a
you.
game changer
Yes,
for
exactly. And I have noticed that too with so many things in my life. The support is a game changer. That's really going to do it. We can't go through this world alone. We are not alone. So we're not the only one going through the things we're going through.
you have lots of help. We have
That's
lots.
right. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for being here.